Here we have the quotient of two functions, f of x divided by g of x, and we want to find the derivative, find the formula for this, the derivative of a quotient of two functions. And once again, by definition, the derivative of f of x, sometimes we use the f prime notation, and then sometimes we use this type of notation, and then sometimes we also use this type of notation. By definition, the derivative is f of x plus delta x minus f of x divided by delta x as delta x approaches 0. Here we want the derivative of a quotient of two functions. And so by definition of derivative, instead of f of x plus delta x, now we have f of x plus delta x dividing by g of x plus delta x. And then here it's just minus f of x, but here we're dealing with a quotient, so it'll be minus f of x dividing by g of x. And then recall this formula right here. If we have a over b plus or minus c over d, then we just cross multiply. It'd be a times d plus or minus b times c dividing by the product of b and d. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to combine the top first. We're going to cross multiply. So let's go ahead and simplify this part first. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply here. So this is going to be f of x plus delta x, and then times g of x, and then minus f of x times g of x delta plus delta x, and then dividing by the product of these two, of the two denominator. And so now we come back here, that's what that is. And so this becomes this. Dividing by delta x is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal of delta x. So dividing by delta x is the same as multiplying by 1 over delta x. So this now becomes the top. We just get the same thing because it's multiplying by 1, and then the bottom we're multiplying by delta x. So the top is just all of this multiplying by 1, so we get the same thing. And the bottom, we just this part times delta x. And then next, we're going to insert a couple of expressions. So we're going to subtract f of x times g of x, and then add f of x times g of x. So we added f of x plus g of x and subtract f of x times g of x. So we adding and subtracting the same thing. So basically what we just did was just add 0 to the top. So we add 0 to something, we haven't changed anything. And now what we're going to do is we're going to group these together. and then group these together. And then for this group right here, the common factor is g of x. So we're going to put that in front of the square bracket here. So so factor out the common factor of g of x. And then for this group, the common factor is f of x. So let's factor that out. And then this delta x right here, so we're going to divide the entire top right here by delta x. And then we're going to divide the bottom by delta x. So we divide the top and bottom by the same thing, so we haven't changed anything. And then the bottom, we just get delta x dividing by delta x, that's just 1, and so we just have this. And then the top, we're going to separate them. And then plus dividing by delta x. So here is this expression dividing this expression plus this expression dividing by delta x, and then we just separate them into the first part dividing by delta x and the second part dividing by delta x. And then we just take the limit of everything. So this is the same as the limit of this plus the limit of that, and then plus, and then dividing by the limit of this. And then we can separate them even further. So this becomes, this part right here, this will be the limit of g of x, and then times the limit of that part. And then over here we have the limit of f of x times the limit of that part. And so the limit of g of x is just g of x, since the limit is with respect to delta x, and we don't have any delta x here. So here we just get g of x. And by definition of derivative, this is the derivative of f of x, or f prime of x. And then this is the limit of f of x, and there's no delta x here, and so it's just going to equal to delta x. It's just going to equal to f of x. And then by definition, this is the derivative of g of x. So that's g prime of x. And then the bottom, we have delta x going to 0. And so this would be x plus 0, which is x. And so we get g of x times g of x, which is just g of x squared. And this is the derivative of f of x dividing by g of x. And this is called the quotient rule.